Hi guys, this is Anna and welcome back to my channel. For those of you who actually still remember that I exist and I do read books occasionally, my output has been non-existent, but as you know, I had a baby at the beginning of April and it's just been a crazy 4 months. My baby turned 4 on a Monday. I can't really, 4 months I mean, and I really can't believe it's gone that fast. So my reading has been patchy, hence there was no content on my channel. I'm trying to come back, so this video is going to be a little bit of a mix, bits and bobs of everything. So I want to talk about what I'm currently reading, what my immediate plans are, a little bit of what I have purchased, because there wasn't that much to warrant a separate book haul. But yeah, it has been crazy, so I do apologize about the way I look. I am dying in a sauna pretty much. My house is a sauna. It's been the hottest summer here in the UK. Either from 1976 or ever. It's just been relentlessly hot, boiling hot, and I hate heat. I usually go to Norway this time of the year where it's plus 18 in the summer. I don't do seaside holidays like ever. I hate them. So this has been horrendous, particularly with the baby, and my baby is not really into sleeping. I inherited my genetics, I guess. Yeah, so I'm in the middle of sleep training. My husband has taken him in the buggy outside so he can fall asleep by himself. Fingers crossed we have about half an hour to do all of it. So it's a hot mess of the video, but we'll get there. So I'll start with the books I'm currently reading and then show my immediate plans, and the books I have purchased will be left until the end. There's a pile of books I am currently going through. Not all of them actually read as a paperback. I'll show one in particular which is a massive fail in terms of paperback. If you're thinking of buying it, don't buy it electronically. So I'll start with whatever is on the top, and right on the top we have Herman Melville, Moby Dick or The Whale. This was one of the books I wanted to reread as a goal for this year. I have read bits of it, like a shortened version, back in high school in America, and I was 16 at the time. I don't think I really understood it, plus it was my first year learning English. I'm about, I would say, 45% through this book. Yeah, page 280, and I'm really enjoying it. It reads to me like an English novel. The author was clearly enamored with William Shakespeare. There was a lot of reference to Shakespeare, but I really enjoyed the language. I like the way he's sarcastically trying to depict the society at the time, particularly the class system and the colonization and racism, inherent racism. Absolutely love it. I'm flying through this because this is the book I read in the evening when my baby's actually gone to bed. Book number 2 I am reading, well, I haven't really picked it up since June. It is Stories by Christina Hein. She is an Estonian writer and it has been translated from Estonian, called The Walker on Water. This is a collection of magical realism, of fairy tale stories, and they are weird. And I'm not really into magical realism, so I'm about halfway through the book. And it is not even a book. To me, this is more like a pamphlet. It's published by the Unnamed Press. I remember Mercy was talking about it, Mercedes from Mercy Bookish Musings. She got a couple of books from that publisher. I wanted to try it, so I went on the website and that appealed to me. However, if you're not a fan of magical realism, probably that will not be up your stream. Also reading a non-fiction book. It's called Modernity Britain, opening the box 1957-1959. This is not the beginning of the series. This is by David Kirchner, who's sort of an anthropologist, a historian. He's writing a lot about London and Britain and England in particular. So this is a book, I think, 3, because there is Austerity Britain, so this is Modernity, Austerity, there is a Family Britain, there's a second volume of Modernity, which takes us to, I think, 62, 63. And there will be more books to come, taking us all the way up to the end or beginning of Margaret Thatcher's time. I first heard about this book when it was first published, I believe in 2016, because I used to subscribe to BBC History magazine and they really recommended this book and highly rated it. However, the reason I have gotten into this one is because I love The Crown, the Netflix show. Actually, I'm subscribed to Netflix only because I would like to watch The Crown. It's probably the one of 3 shows I've ever watched there. So I really enjoyed the second season. I'm really gearing up for the third one, and this is where the time period where the second season was set in, so 1957, 1959, and I'm absolutely enjoying this book. Really like it, would highly recommend it. Very easily written, lots of social referencing, and because I lived in this country for half of my life, I understand a lot about the British mentality, but obviously did not grow up with my parents being embracing the same culture. So a lot of the TV shows, for example, everyone always talks about, and they come up a lot in conversation and the pub quizzes from the 50s and the 60s and 70s, they are alien to me as a concept. So it's really interesting to see how they are described in this book, because what he does is he takes you through the whole year from January to December, so that was 1957, and he really gradually describes how the social life was interacting with science and with world affairs and with the politics. If you have read Alice 1914, the German book about the year 1914, it's very similar style. Another book, and it's actually a new book, I have not shown it on my channel. This is one of the books I have purchased since having a baby, because I have pre-ordered it. This is Emile Zola, His Excellency Eugene Rougon. This is the 6th book in his Macrat Rougon series. However, this is the 2nd book he recommends you read, and I'm going to read all 20 of them in the order he had recommended himself. I love the first one, I'm absolutely into this one. I'm really enjoying it. Again, the sarcasm is really there. I like the language. I think it's a really good translation. I'm glad I waited for the Brian Nelson translation, because I loved his translation of the first book, The Fortunes of the Rougon. So yeah, highly recommend this. I'm also going through this chunker. And this is a love-hate relationship. This is a love affair. I am roughly, there are 2 bookmarks, I'm roughly halfway through the actual text, and then there are all of those notes. You have to read them. You have to read them if you want to understand what's going on. But I'm not reading this edition. This is a complete waste of money purchasing it as a paperback, because it is enormous. I can't take it with me. I can't read it one-handed, which is what I have been doing while I'm feeding, or while the baby was cluster feeding on me or sleeping on me for the first 6 weeks. So straight away I had to give this up. I started reading this back in March when I was still pregnant, and I've done about 100 pages. I'm now on page 457, and I'm really into it, but I've been reading this electronically, and if you have not read it yet and you're thinking of doing it, I would really recommend you purchase it electronically as well, because you have to constantly flip through the beginning and the end, or the middle and the end, because you have to go to the references as they appear in the text. And if you read them electronically, you just click on it and then you go back, and you can easily annotate it and then go back and reread bits, because there is no proper time scale in this book. It flips forward between different years, and it takes you about 300 pages to work out where those years go chronologically and how old the main characters are. This is a chunker of a book. This is an emotional roller coaster. It's not for everyone. I have really vivid memories of reading bits of this book to do with depression when I was going through the first 6 weeks of having a baby. I was like completely sleep deprived. I remember reading this like at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning while my baby was feeding and sleeping on me. And really emphasizing with some of the characters. If you know anyone who has gone through alcohol addiction, drug addiction, you suffered yourself, or you have gone through self-harm, suicidal thoughts, depression, this book is really raw, and you can see that Thomas Foster Wallace, he has been through a lot in his life. He is talking through the personal experience. I absolutely adore the language he's writing with. I think postmodernism is probably my thing. It is so vivid, sarcastic, and intelligent, and really linguistically challenging, and you have to go and search some words. And the wordplay is fantastic, and his chapter about Madame Psychosis and her radio show and the human brain. I have no clue how many hours he had spent studying the Gray's Anatomy Atlas of the human brain, but he has done his research. I can tell you, he has taken months to write bits of this book. And this is a shortened version apparently. I absolutely adore it, but it's a difficult read. And again, I have no clue how you would translate it, because the translator will probably go crazy. And then the last book I have picked up last week, I'm pretty much done. I think I'll finish it today. This is I've Lost the Dusty Jacket. This is probably the most abused book in my house now. This is what happens when you leave it next to your baby. This is an Our Mad and Furious City. This is a debut novel by Guy Gunarate, and this is one of the books, one of the 13 books longlisted for the Man Booker Prize this year. And this leads me to the next segment of this clip. Right, my immediate plans, which are all to do with the Man Booker Prize, because I have decided, look, it's been such long hiatus, I'm probably not going to fulfill my aims for this year. It's August, I should really be reading The Bleak House or reading The Demons. But alas, this is now becoming stressful, just looking at this wall. I'll get to those books, but I have decided I'm gonna pick some books from the Man Booker long list, particularly since this year they have broadened it yet more, which I don't think is a great idea. If you have not seen so already, please go and watch MementoMori's video. It's hilarious, and Britta's video. I agree with everything she says. I mean, I loved her video last year when she talked about how unfair sometimes the nominations are for the Man Booker Prize, but this year I have to say I loved her video even more. Quite frankly, I do not understand why they have to include more genres into that, things like utopian novels or things like crime novels. I mean, these are lovely genres if you like genre fiction, but I always believed the Man Booker Prize was about literary fiction, so we'll see. So I looked at the 13 books and I have picked up 5 I was willing to go in and read on paper. 1 or 2 I was really into buying before the list was announced, because I like TLS. I subscribe to TLS, but some of them I'm not even sure I will. I might actually read Snatch. I'll insert the picture there, but I'll have to buy it electronically because it is a thriller. I will only ever read it once, so I don't see the point of buying a hardbound edition. So as I mentioned, I'm currently reading An Our Mad and Furious City. This is set in London. This is set sort of late 2000s. It's a very current book. It does read very current because it kind of refers to Brexit and the rise of nationalist movement here in England, and bigotry and racism. Again, it talks about class, it talks about the way society actually been structured and immigrations. But I'm not in love with this book, so I'm pretty much done. I don't believe in all of the voices in this book, and if you never read anything about class and race here in Britain, this might read very flat to you. And if you're not into grime and you don't understand sort of the current modern mixed max of the language in London, you might find it a bit difficult to get into language. I found language really easy. I actually like the language. I believe there is an audiobook of this, which people highly recommend because it is read with the Irish accent, Caribbean accent, with a Pakistani accent. They're all British people, but they have their heritage with them, hence they do speak with slightly different accents. So I don't know, that might be worth looking at. If you are interested, I can do a book review and talk about other books which I would recommend to go with it. Sort of mostly, not mostly, all of them non-fiction. Another book which I thought I'll check out is The Mars Room by Rachel Kirchner. Again, not exactly something I would normally go for, but it has been recommended by George Saunders and by Jonathan Franzen, and I love Jonathan Franzen, so I thought, why not? Another one, this one is by Donald Ryan, who is quite loved by the Man Booker Committee, I believe. This is from A Low and Quiet Sea, a very, very short novel. Has come up with quite a lot of good praises to it, and I thought it is quite short. It's beautifully printed. yes, I might struggle, but if not, it's not too much of the take on my time. And then two books which I thought I would read anyway. Well, one of them is by Michael Ondaatje. Well, obviously, this is, well, not obviously, but I can feel that it's going to be shortlisted, not just longlisted. It's called Warlight. This is his novel about the aftermath of World War II. So it starts in 1945. It's set in London. As you know, he has won the Man Booker Prize for the English Patient, not once but twice, because that was named the best booker the last 50 years. So obviously, when I read that his new novel was coming up this year, I knew this would be shortlisted, and alas it is. Well, longlisted. And then the one book which I really wanted to buy, and I'm gonna keep it until the last, so I'm gonna read the rest of those book lists first. And this is The Other Story by Richard Powers. I believe it's beautifully written. As I mentioned, I really like TLS, and TLS has done a wonderful, wonderful review on this book, which has taken more, guys, more than a page, and that is a very rare than a book comes out and they really go out and spend that much of the paper just on one review. Usually something that extensive would require a couple of books, and we'll talk about several of them. So yes, I think this will again be shortlisted, if not gonna win it, and this is the one I am the most interested in reading from the entire list. Right, then I'm gonna go through the books I have purchased and you have not seen on my channel yet. Right, starting with Laurence Sterne. It's an absolute classic. This is 18th century classic, which had a huge impact on the likes of the Creative Vanity Fair, which I have reread back in January, I believe. February, I can't even believe it now. Here it is, by Thackeray. This is my vintage edition, really, really pretty. I wasn't that blown by that, by the way. I probably need to make a video where I talk about all the books I've read prior to having a baby. But this is a bit of a satire, it's a classic. It's called The Life and Opinions of Tristan Shandy Gentleman. So, looking forward to reading this, hopefully at some point next year. Then a bit of philosophy. I have Immanuel Kant, The Critique of Pure Reason, and I have Arthur Schopenhauer, The Essays and Aphorisms. So both in the Penguin Classics edition. Don't know when I'm gonna get to them. I got a book which I have pre-ordered a while back. It's called The Kremlin Ball by Curzio Malapartis. It's translated from Italian by the New York Review Books, which I really like as a publisher. I like their translations. And yeah, how can I get away from not reading about the Soviet Union in the 1920s, written by an Italian who was reading and writing stuff in the time of Mussolini? That should be really interesting. I finally got my hands on Ali Smith's Autumn in the hardbound edition because I have missed it, and I have Winter. I have not read either of them. I'm planning on, but I'll probably get to them once she does the entire series, so we get the spring. And we'll also get the summer, and then I'll just read them in one chunk, binging them. I got a beautiful edition of Mikhail Sholokhov. This is a Russian or Soviet Union author called Podnita Celina. I'm not sure it has been translated into English, but I've got this edition from 1953. And I'm absolutely blown away. It's glorious. It has really, really nice illustrations. I have reread his Tihi Dawn, or Quiet Flows the Dawn, earlier this year, and I think that's going to be the best book I have read this year. All the English translation is abridged and not that good. I do apologize, but I don't know how you can translate it. But yeah, that's another of his works, much shorter. I got Chinua Achebe, A Man of the People, simply because why? I have read two Chinua Achebes this year. One I have planned to, and one extra, and I love both of them. And I got another one on education of British protected child. So this is sort of more of his non-fiction biography, even more interesting to me to read. Finally got this edition of Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie Americana. I'm not going to read it this year. My plan was to read this one, Half of the Yellow Sun, but I wanted to start getting them in the same edition. And what really frustrates me, guys, from the Fourth Estate, if you're listening, why would you publish an author supposedly as a single edition, and the books will come up different height. This is going to drive me ballistic. Telling you, I'm really going to struggle with this. And then I've got a vintage edition of Pynchon's Gravity Rainbow. I know a lot of people are currently reading this on the booktube as read along. I don't know when I'm going to get to them, but I think postmodernist American literature is my thing. And then the last 3 books are all by David Foster Wallace, because I have fallen in love with his writing. So what do I have here? I have The Broom of the System, which is his first novel, the one written before The Infinite Jest. And people say it's just as good. Well, not just, you can't really beat, I think, Infinite Jest. That's his magnum opus, but still. And then I got The Pale King, also by him. And then I was quite fortunate to find this edition. This is called the David Foster Wallace Reader. This is published by Back Bay Books. And this is a collection of his non-fiction and fiction writing, because he's done lots and lots of essays for various magazines. It is quite a chunker. We're talking about 1,000 pages, but this is not something you just sit and read and go. This is something you take it with you as a companion. If you like his writing style, if you are interested in the way his brain was working and how he got his inspiration and what authors had an influence on him. Whew, and we are done, I think. This is all I was going to talk about. Please let me know what content you would find more interesting. I can start making videos about the Men Booker Prize long list books as I'm reading them through. And also I have the books I have read before having a baby and then since having a baby, so I just don't know how to pile them up together in one interesting video. Hopefully the content will appear much more frequently. Fingers crossed that the sleep training works and we can get back to reading more. See you guys in the next video. Bye.